अल्टीमेटली तो धंधा है ना. मतलब वी टॉक अबाउट, founder talks about solving the problem for customer, generating value for investor, making sure that culture is good so employees are, मतलब, they are able to contribute meaningfully and stuff like that. खुद का घर, खुद का पैसा, कब पैसा, this like very few people talk about. And so then we arrived at a conclusion कि यार इसमें से अपन को मीनिंगफुल पैसा बनाने के लिए तो बहुत ज्यादा और मेहनत है. और मतलब we'll have to lot of things need to go right, and for all the things that you add their probability gets multiplied, right? मतलब इसका 5% प्रोबेबिलिटी, इसका 2% प्रोबेबिलिटी, तो दोनों का मिला के मतलब 0.1% हो जाता है यार. कोई खुश नहीं है. The client thinks that they are overpaying, and we think that we are overworking.
Founders are crazy people.
At Clientjoy, we were helping about 13,000 odd agencies from 90 plus countries grow their business and manage their clients. After Clientjoy started Momentum.
Why go through the hassle of starting another business?
The fact that you guys were solving too many problems at Clientjoy, or you guys were trying to solve too many problems at Clientjoy, and that was a mistake.
Yeah.
फिर तो मैं फंस गया.
Passion does not introduce competence.
How do you get to the point where you realize that I have stuck with it enough that I need to change?
If you're in B2B, you can only do three things, right? You can either save time, save money, or help them make more money.
इतना मत करो, तुम्हारा product already hero है. This whole funding thing is the most annoying thing you can do as a founder.
The challenge I see a lot of startups or early stage companies that are facing today is that there's tremendously disproportionate amount of effort and attention that goes into product development, especially in the early stages, and not enough on go to market, right? And that's essentially what we are trying to change at Momentum. So over the last 10 years of my journey, I've myself made that mistake a couple of times, and I've seen a lot of other founders also running experiments on their product that don't actually mean anything. And so what the premise upon which Momentum started is that large parts of technology, product building, and design are commoditized, right? You don't need to reinvent the wheel on a lot of those things, like your sign up and your onboarding and your admin and your dashboard and analytics and whatnot. And so the idea is that we help founders focus on metrics that matter, right? So we help founders focus on GTM. We help founders make sure that they have more time to to monitor wider trends in the market, to actually talk to their customers instead of just checking it off their list that spoke to like one customer today or whatever. We help founders spend more time with stakeholders, with investors, whatever the case may be, and we take them out of product development, right? So the premise is that they come to us saying, hey, this is something that we want to build, and then everything that needs to be built is just built and ready. That is something that they can go out there and market. And so that's the problem that we are trying to solve at Momentum. A little about me. Before Momentum, I used to run a SaaS company called Clientjoy. Clientjoy was a CRM for freelancers and agencies. At Clientjoy, we were helping about 13,000 odd agencies from 90 plus countries grow their business and manage their clients. And using Clientjoy, they were engaging with about 1.8 million odd leads, managing about 78,000 clients, collecting about $25 million in payments each month. And it was sort of a model startup. So we started this in 2019, got the government grant under Startup India program, raised our seed, our angel, our VC, and then exited Clientjoy in January of 2024 to a firm called Synup, which is based in US. Both of us, both Clientjoy and Synup, have the same target market. The scales were different, and after Clientjoy started Momentum. So that's a little bit about the journey. Before Clientjoy, I used to run an agency, and before that, I was an investment banker for about a year and a half. So not a real investment banker, but did that bit for about a year and a half. And essentially a mechanical engineer from NIT, just trying to figure out what market values the most and trying to fix one problem at a time.
I love how mechanical engineers always end up in computer science nowadays.
Yeah, I like my batch was 240 people. None of those people are doing mechanical engineering 12 years in. So सब लोग अलग अलग चीजें कर रहे हैं यार. कोई यूपीएससी करके आईएएस बन गया, कोई बैंक बना रहा है, कोई इन्वेस्टमेंट एनालिस्ट या ऐसा कोई पोजीशन पे है एनसीआई.
People used to believe that mechanical engineers join in to work on cars, and then nobody needs like traditional cars anymore. One of my friends is so excited about cars that he started working with a cooker manufacturer. Like that is just the saddest way it works. And then he's like, "No, bro, I'm not doing this." And he ended up in consultancy with McKinsey. So that's like the journey. About product development versus go-to market. What is the difference? Why are there so many words? Like, how does it work? What is product development? What is go-to-market? What is the difference?
So I'll tell you a couple of things, right? So product development, which is something that when you are trying to build something out there for the world, you have customers and customers have problems and they have cohorts, so there's no real face, right? So the exercise that product development team primarily does is goes out there, speaks to lots and lots of people, tries to identify that one insight or a couple of insights that they are able to believe are urgent, important, and frequent problems for a particular segment of the market, right? And then once they've identified problems that fit into into this sort of urgent, important, frequent matrix, they then typically should figure out whether this makes financial sense or not. So they should go to a spreadsheet and they should identify that if we are able to solve this problem, so if you're in B2B, you can only do three things, right? You can either save time, save money, or help them make more money. So what category are you in? Are you helping your customers? If you build this, are you helping your customers save time, save money, or help them make more money? And then figure out how much will you be able to charge, how quickly will you be able to get to a minimal amount of customers that will help you sustain, and then you figure out that this is the amount of money that I need, this is the amount of resources that I need to make the product to a level which is typically what they call as MVP. There are different terms for this, but typically, broadly accepted is MVP. And then you try and build that product. You go out there, you pitch it to the people that you were earlier researching with. If they like it, they pay for it, and then the more customers pay for it, the more is your ability to sort of build more things on top of the product, solve even more problems, expand through the whole chain, which is like you typically want to land and expand into an organization to solve very specific problem for a particular department and then slowly grow. So that's the first piece, which is your product development, right? Identifying urgent, important, frequent, figuring out whether you are saving time, saving money, or helping them make more money, and then building it. While you are building it, what you also want to do is so the fundamental idea that most founders miss, including myself, in the first time I tried, is that building a good product is a necessary condition but not a sufficient one. And so there has to be significant amount of exercise done on how are you positioning yourself, who are you reaching out to, what are the channels that you are using to reach out to those people, and then trying to get them into as a part of your funnel, right? So if you are a product today, the market can be broadly divided, like the market is the world, and you can broadly divide that into three parts, right? So it's problem aware, solution aware, and product aware, right? And as of now, since your product is not out there in the world, product aware is essentially competitor aware, right? So let's say I'm building a competitor of Zoom. There's a part of the market that is just problem aware, that they want to talk to people through video conferencing but they don't know how, and then they do a Google search, and then they become solution aware, that they realize that, hey, solutions exist for the problem that I'm facing right now. And then product aware, which is where they come across Zoom and Google Meet and stuff like that. And so that's sort of your funnel. And so at what funnel, what touch points will you design such that if someone enters, they are pushed to the next phase of your funnel, and then they try out your product and ultimately purchase. So these two are sort of separate but intertwined functions. Go to market is design of your funnel, and product development is making sure that whoever comes in consistently pays for the product that you've built, finds incremental value in the product that.
Yash, you spoke about money very early. You said that the moment you have an idea of what is urgent, what is important, and what is frequent, you should go back, draw up a spreadsheet, see this is how much this feature is going to cost me, this is how much I can get people to pay for it. So far, a lot of people who we've spoken to, a lot of people who we've come across, money is sort of looked at this as this, what can we say, this hoodoo thing that you should never speak about, that shall not be named but will appear out of thin air. How important is this whole exercise where you decide what is viable, and should every founder be doing this before they make their MVP?
Unless it's a hobby project and you are thinking about it as equivalent to making open source contributions on GitHub, right? So if you're doing it to better your own skills as an engineer or as a designer, like you're just going to put it out there on Dribble or whatever. Unless it is in that category, you should start with a spreadsheet first, right? And it's not like the spreadsheet has to be correct. It's most likely it will be wrong. But the idea is that there has to be a habit of uh, the ability to make decisions when variables are not clear, and then making assumptions, and the practice of over a period of the next 3 years making sure that you are able to make the right or make more accurate assumptions, right? So you should first go in and something as simple as this, that if 1,000 people land onto my website, I'll get 100 people to sign up. If 100 people sign up, I'll be able to get 10 people to become my paid customer. If 10 people become my paid customer, they will on an average pay $99 a month. And every month my churn would be 3% or less, right? So these are great set of assumptions to start with for a SaaS company. But we don't get into that habit, right? So now these assumptions could be right or wrong.
I want to add your experience to this. You yourself built a SaaS company which generated so many clients, so much business, right? So, considering your own experience, let's have your urgent, important, frequent, your experience with the spreadsheet, and your experience with monetization of all of this, so that we have like a lot of material to what you just said.
So before Clientjoy, we used to be an IT agency, right? And we did that business for 6 years. We grew to be a 55 people team, and we were essentially building, offering digital transformation solutions to our clients. And we had been doing that, and one of the things that was sort of a consistent realization in the 6th year of running that IT service company was that यार कोई खुश नहीं है, मतलब the client thinks that they are overpaying and we think that we are overworking. एंड तो ये रिलेशनशिप में खुश कौन है, मतलब बिटवीन द एजेंसी क्लाइंट relationship, right? And so then we started talking to our peers, and Ahmedabad Gandhi, we're based out of Ahmedabad. Ahmedabad Gandhinagar has the most like densely packed service companies, right? This is more IT service companies than rest of the country. um, and so we had a lot of peers. We started talking to them कि यार मतलब तुम्हारे साथ भी यही हो रहा है क्या, मतलब यही प्रॉब्लम, इज दिस अ चैलेंज कि मतलब कितने क्लाइंट्स तुमसे खुश हैं, मतलब और तुम कितने क्लाइंट से खुश हो. एंड वी रियलाइज कि नहीं यार हर जगह पे ये प्रॉब्लम है. सो देन वी स्टार्टेड आइडेंटिफाइंग कि ये प्रॉब्लम कहाँ से आ रहा है और क्यों आ रहा है. एंड देन वी स्टार्टेड मैपिंग कि एक क्लाइंट का लाइफ साइकिल विद एन एजेंसी क्या होता है. And so we saw the agency uses some sort of a sales CRM to reach out to the client, and then some proposal or document signing system, and then some task management system, some chat system, and then invoicing का system अलग है. And then after doing all of that, they do manual reconciliation of payments कि ये पैसा आया कि नहीं आया. And then 20-30 लोग जब तक होते हैं तब तक बेस्ट चलता है सब काम काज, क्योंकि फाउंडर इज इन्वॉल्व इन एवरीथिंग. आफ्टर 30 थिंग्स स्टार्ट टू गो हेवायर. मतलब एट द एंड ऑफ द ईयर कंपनी प्रॉफिटेबल है, पर अगस्त में सैलरी देने का पैसा नहीं था, सो कैश फ्लो चैलेंजेस स्टार्ट कमिंग अप. कोई इनवॉइस रेज करना भूल गए, कोई प्रपोजल साइन ही नहीं हुआ और उसका काम चालू हो गया, stuff like that. And ultimately still the client updates happen on email and WhatsApp. So when we said ki yaar, can we make sort of an app of apps, which is the primary fundamental goal of that is help agencies and clients build better working relationships with each other, right? So what are the challenges from the client side? So चैलेंज हो सकता है, ट्रस्ट का प्रॉब्लम हो सकता है, विजिबिलिटी का प्रॉब्लम हो सकता है, अपडेट्स का प्रॉब्लम हो सकता है. And this is assuming that the agency is doing good work, right? So if the agency has a problem, if the client is a problem, then it's a different thing, right? That's something that software can't fix. But and then what are the challenges from agency side of things? So agency side of things में मतलब relevant लोगों को visibility भी नहीं है कि project के अंदर क्या चल रहा है. So at Clientjoy, what we were trying to solve, and which I now, by the way, also realized that these were too many problems to solve at once. After about 1.5 years of the product being on the market, right, which is from MVP to a little more mature product, जितना development हुआ वो 1.5 साल में. वी स्टार्टेड रियलाइजिंग कि यार हम दुनिया को बोल रहे हैं, जैसे मैंने अभी ये पॉडकास्ट में भी बोला कि हमारा आर कस्टमर्स आर एजेंसीज एंड फ्रीलांसर. वी स्टार्टेड रियलाइजिंग कि नहीं यार, आइडियल कस्टमर्स आर मतलब एजेंसी एंड फ्रीलांसर. वर्टिकलाइज सास है, वो सब बढ़िया बात है, बट दैट इज अ वर्टिकलाइज सास फ्रॉम एन इन्वेस्टर स्टैंड पॉइंट. सो इन्वेस्टर तो पूरा दुनिया का सारा धंधा मार्केट समझता है, उसमें तुम बोल रहे हो कि सिर्फ एजेंसी फ्रीलांसर को केटर कर रहे हैं, तो वर्टिकल हो गया. पर एक प्रोडक्ट उतना बड़ा वर्टिकल को ये स्टेज पे हैंडल नहीं कर सकते. If we only look at 11 to 50 team size के agency founders based in US and Canada, who are in digital marketing agency as a vertical, right? अगर ये cohort को पकड़ते तो 3-4 interesting behaviors. The first interesting behavior is that their demo calls are not actually demo calls. So they come on the call and then they are not like show me value of your product. They come on the call after evaluating the software and then they have pinpoint specific question कि मेरे को ये करना है, ये कैसे अकम्प्लिश होगा ये प्रोडक्ट में, मेरे को वो कर. सो दे डेमो कॉल्स वर मोर लाइक सपोर्ट कॉल्स, राइट? So that was the first thing. Second thing was they were the people who didn't ask for discounts, right? So they were not like, can you do a better pricing for us? ये कॉन्वर्जेशन ही नहीं हो रहा था, राइट? सो लाइक हाँ चलो डन, ये ठीक लग रहा है, विल गो अहेड. The third thing that we noticed that these people shouted the most about Clientjoy. तो मतलब वो अपनी कम्युनिटी के बारे में, कम्युनिटी के अंदर जा करके बोल रहे हैं कि ये मेरे को नया प्रोडक्ट मिला है. इनको हम लोग पूछ नहीं दे रहे, फिर भी ये लोग ट्रस्ट पायलट पे और G2 पे रिव्यूज दे रहे हैं, मतलब भर भर के बैचेस आ रहे हैं. एंड दिस इज विदाउट अस रनिंग एनी कैंपेन कि हम $10 का कुछ दे देंगे या क्रेडिट दे देंगे या समथिंग लाइक दैट. तो ऐसे हाँ, एंड देन इवन दो वी आर ऑफरिंग अ 14-day ट्रायल, दीस पीपल आर कन्वर्टिंग बिटवीन 8 to 11 days.
You moved from a very small ticket size to a very large ticket size when you went from Clientjoy to now Momentum Ventures. Because last time we spoke, you were like, most of my clients are overseas, and most of my clients are like higher ticket clients, so it is unlikely they would come via our podcast. I want to ask about that journey, but first I want to ask about the journey of getting international clients. Because India में build करना is cheaper, India में team hire करना is cheaper, India में starting a business is cheaper, but then getting these clients to pay such prices is an enormous task for a new company. What's that process like? क्या देखना होता है मुझे कि मेरे को कनाडा का, यूएस का, स्विट्जरलैंड का यहाँ का अकाउंट चाहिए, हाई पेइंग अकाउंट चाहिए. हाउ डू आई मेक दैट जर्नी? हाउ डू आई मेक दैट जंप?
So step one would primarily be looking at your competitors. So identify the organization that is competing with you in your space that you look up to, and then look at the ads that they are running on LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever the space that they are in. Figure out a way कि you get their salesperson to do a demo to you. It could be a demo, it could be a sales call, जो भी हो सकता है, right? Go to a friend who could be their potential client, and then वो डेमो पे जाओ और देखो कि वो बेच क्या रहा है, right? So वो बेच मतलब जैसे मोमेंटम में most of my competitors are ultimately what is being sold is a Python engineer for let's say $25 an hour. और वो सेल्स कॉल पे पाइथन इंजीनियर फॉर $25 एन आवर नहीं बेच रहा, वो रेज्यूमे नहीं दिखा रहा, वो मतलब ऐसे 50 टेक स्टैक नहीं दिखा रहा है, राइट? तो वो उस कॉल पे क्या दिखा रहा है, and what is it that is working? Do it for 5 competitors, understand what is working for other players in the space, understand how they are positioning, right? So आप सब लोगों की वेबसाइट और सोशल मीडिया और एड्स के ऊपर जाओगे एंड गूगल एंड लिंक्डइन एंड फेसबुक, all of them you'll be able to find the ads that they are running, right? So मतलब उसके एड नेटवर्क पे जा करके आप उनका पेज का नाम डालोगे तो क्या क्या एड्स चला रहे हैं वो आपको पता चलेगा. मतलब you'll be able to figure out what are the funnels that they are trying to use, right? So first is understand what is being sold, right? Not what you are selling. आपके स्पेस में बेचा क्या जा रहा है, पहला तो वो सीखना इज इम्पोर्टेंट. सेकेंड इज कि let's say if you're running a SaaS company or even for momentum, right? For both these businesses, a challenge. The first thing that you want to do is build trust in your about yourself, right? So जैसे अगर आप SaaS company बना रहे हो ना, there is a good chance कि the customer will have to host some sensitive data onto your platform, or they will have to make your SaaS as a part of some integration or some workflow. So for you to find value in my company, you are a Canadian founder of 40 people creative ad agency. You will need to bring all your leads, documents, clients, invoice payments onto Clientjoy, which is a tough ask. Right? So so firstly identifying what are the things that you respect, right, or that you have trust on. So they say we started with partnerships. So if you go to Stripe and PayPal, we'll be able to showcase that we are a preferred payments partner with Stripe and PayPal. You've not heard of Clientjoy, but you've heard of Stripe and PayPal. So that's one. On the second front, what we did was getting badges from G2, Capterra, Trustpilot. You don't trust Clientjoy. You trust G2, you trust Trustpilot, you trust Capterra and stuff like that. So वहां से how do we get badges? Some amount of healthy media mentions. It could be because of the funding that you've done, using some amount of your past experience or connections, or becoming an author on some Forbes council or whatever. And but getting some amount of media mentions that you can highlight. And this is very early stage, right? So late stage में ऐसा सब नहीं होता. But very early stage where they've not heard about you when they come to your platform. So that's another piece that you could do. The fourth one is launching on a marketplace, right? So some third party marketplace that your customer values, but so they trust that marketplace, but they don't trust you. So that's another piece. Sixth one would be in the similar category, but going via communities, right? So establishing great relationships with community admins and community mods, and then doing sort of a resource sharing or thought leadership sharing sessions in those communities. With momentum, one of the things that I'm saying to build trust is that यार आपका SaaS प्रोडक्ट बनाना है, मैंने एक SaaS प्रोडक्ट पिछले 4 साल में बना के बेचा है. सो ये रहा उसका मीडिया, ये रहा जो कंपनी जिसने खरीदा, ये नए प्रोडक्ट उसके ऊपर अपडेट्स हैं. सो ये सारी चीजें आप चेकआउट कर सकते हो. And so given that I have gone through the whole journey from founding to exit and distribution whatnot, I'll be a good person to help you out, right? तो मैं मतलब $25 का पाइथन इंजीनियर बेच ही नहीं रहा हूँ, right? मतलब that's the business that I'm into is if you're a founder, there's a good probability that I understand your problems better than another IT agency because I've done this before, right? And then the recommendations and stuff that I can give. Now I also know that this is not scalable, right? So I cannot sell my consultancy or myself at a scale of 100 people, but I can do that till we are 30, 35. We are about 25 people today and it's been working out up until now. 30-35 तक ये चलेगा. तब तक मतलब इनफ रिव्यूज आ जाएंगे, इनफ बैचेस आ जाएंगे, इनफ आउटकम्स निकल जाएंगे कि फिर उस काम के बेसिस पे विल बी एबल टू gain trust.
The fact that you guys were solving too many problems at Clientjoy, or you guys were trying to solve too many problems at Clientjoy, and that was a mistake. How did you identify that? And what did you do at Momentum to make sure this mistake doesn't repeat itself?
Just not making that mistake, right? So just I'll tell you how. So like just making sure that we are not spread too thin. कि मतलब बहुत सारी चीजें नहीं करते, सिर्फ एक चीज करते हैं और वो बहुत अच्छे से करते हैं. जैसे एज एन एग्जांपल हम लोग वेबसाइट का रीडिजाइन भी ऑफर करते हैं एज एन एग्जांपल. तो मतलब उसमें वर्डप्रेस भी कर सकते हैं, वेबफ्लो भी कर सकते हैं, फ्रेमर भी कर सकते हैं, बहुत सारी चीजें कर सकते हैं. हमने बोला नहीं, 4 चीज नहीं करनी, हम सिर्फ वेबफ्लो करेंगे. सो हम आपको, अगर आपको कोई और जगह पे वेबसाइट है तो वेबफ्लो पे माइग्रेट करके दे देंगे, या वेबफ्लो के ऊपर अगर बनाना है तो वो करके दे देंगे.
पर ये डिसीजन तो बहुत मुश्किल है ना. अगर मैं स्टार्टिंग में डिसाइड करता हूँ कि हम फॉर एग्जांपल ABCD मेरे पास ऑप्शन है, मैंने बोला नहीं सिर्फ B करेंगे, बट अगर C बेटर ऑप्शन है पर मेरे को बस पता नहीं था, फिर तो मैं फंस गया.
करेक्ट. और आपको ऐसा लगेगा भी, मतलब 6 महीने के बाद आपको ऐसा लगेगा कि यार सी बेटर ऑप्शन है, क्योंकि आपको उसकी लीड्स ज्यादा दिखने लगेंगी, या आप वो लीड्स आएंगी तो आप उसको मना करोगे. वो सारी चीजें आपके साथ होगी भी. एंड इट इज so there are some things that which is where skills are not good enough, where experience works is in so the maturity of knowing the amount of complexity that WordPress and Webflow engineering will have for my business is matlab, is significantly more valuable than the skills of having WordPress development and Webflow development. क्योंकि मैं आपको दूसरा एग्जांपल देता हूँ. कि आपको 2 वेबफ्लो के लोग चाहिए, आपको 2 वर्डप्रेस के लोग चाहिए। वो दोनों के लिए आपको एक सेल्स पर्सन चाहिए जो वर्डप्रेस और वेबफ्लो दोनों को इक्वल प्रपोर्शन में बेचेगा, क्योंकि बजट अथॉरिटी नीड टाइम, राइट? सो you need to fulfill the service that comes in. You're competing on price, you're doing all of those things as well. So the amount of complexity that it adds to your ops and the pressure that it has on your sales people कि यार मतलब 25-30 दिन से वर्डप्रेस वाला फ्री बैठा हुआ है, वेबफ्लो में ज्यादा प्रोजेक्ट है पर वो इंसान छोड़ने की बात कर रहा है, right? तो और वो दोनों एक दूसरे का काम नहीं कर सकते। सो सो इट इज द मैच्योरिटी ऑफ नोइंग कि ये लीड को मैं मना कर रहा हूँ पर उसके सामने मेरे पास पीस ऑफ माइंड है कि मैं मतलब अगर मेरा वेबफ्लो का इंसान फ्री बैठा है तो उससे मैं वेबफ्लो का सर्टिफिकेट करवा दूंगा। मतलब AWS, GCP और अश्योर में से हम सिर्फ AWS करेंगे, GCP अश्योर नहीं करना है, राइट? सो 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 स्टफ लाइक दैट, राइट? सो दिस इज इट आई नो इट्स एक्सट्रीमली डिफिकल्ट टू 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 मेक अ चॉइस एंड देन स्टिक विथ इट। पर मतलब शादी में भी यही होता है यार, मतलब so, तो वो तो मतलब so you just have to it's just maturity that needs to sort of develop, or you change the choice, right? Or you change the choice, but then you don't do both.
Forget change the choice. I want to say, how do you get to the point where you realize कि I have stuck with it enough that I need to change? You might say कि चलो मेरे को ऑप्शन B मैंने चूज किया है, 3 महीने हो गए हैं, मुझे A C D तीनों के लीड्स आए हैं, B के नहीं आए हैं. But is 3 months enough?
So it's the answer is not in terms of time, but it is in terms of the cost, right? So one is, what is the cost of shifting, and is the cost of shifting, like let's say 3x or 5x lesser than the additional value that you'll be able to build by making the choice of shifting.
शादी हुई है या गर्लफ्रेंड है?
हाँ, yeah, that's a good way to think about it, right? So अगर shift करने के लिए I have to say no to 5 clients and I have to fire 2 people, but then I'm going to make only 20% additional revenue, तो फिर नहीं करना है shift, right? It's okay. मतलब I'm here and I'm happy, and this is working fine. By the way, this only applies for early stages, right? So late stage में अगर आपका organization grow कर गया, at that point of time you will have people who will be able to handle the complexity of doing both the things at once. This only works at early stage, which is where focus is your key, right?
We are talking about early stage, yes, because 90% of people who are watching this, people like us, we have questioned ourselves, I don't know how many times कि हम ठीक कर रहे हैं, नहीं कर रहे हैं, हमारा ये strategy है, should we stick to it, should we not? Like yesterday we met some people who were like, oh, we're doing this, we have this option, but we can do this also. And both of us are like, guys, इतना मत करो, तुम्हारा product already hero है, देखो. So that's why I asked you this question of too many problems, because this too many problems is a very real thing, because founders are crazy people. हमें हर जगह प्रॉब्लम दिखता है, हर जगह सोल्यूशन दिखता है.
हाँ हाँ, एब्सोल्युटली यार, मतलब हम लोगों ने Clientjoy में मतलब वी हैड कैलेंडर इंटीग्रेशंस एंड बुकिंग इंजन एंड स्टफ लाइक दैट आल्सो सॉर्ट ऑफ बिल्ट इन, पूरा का पूरा ईमेल इंटीग्रेट कर रहे हैं, $10,000 देना पड़ता है गूगल को to get the rights of creating, reading, updating and deleting emails of the person who has integrated their email account with Clientjoy and stuff like that every year, right? So we've solved, like we've tried to solve a lot of problems, and then so ये realize तो आपको हो जाता है यार. So ये realize करना is not that, मतलब after making the mistake, if you're talking about how do you realize, so it's easy. मतलब you just look at your mix panel and you see that nobody is touching this part. It's the piece that is difficult is, so अपन एकदम सिंपल सा assume करते हैं कि अपने पास 10 फीचर है और मिक्स पैनल दिखा रहा है कि 6 फीचर लोग यूज कर रहे हैं, 4 फीचर लोग नहीं यूज कर रहे, और अपन अज्यूम कर लेते हैं कि सब 10 फीचर को डेवलप करने में 10-10% लगा है, मतलब सिंप्लिसिटी के लिए ऑफ एफर्ट, राइट? एफर्ट, रिसोर्सेज, व्हाटएवर. तो जब फाउंडर को पता चलता है ना कि वो 4 चीजें लोग यूज नहीं कर रहे, तो उनका रिस्पॉन्स क्या होता है पता है? यार इसको बेटर डिजाइन करते हैं. अरे मतलब और पैसा डालता है इसमें कि मतलब इसको ऑनबोर्डिंग के अंदर एक स्टेप में डाल देते हैं या एक चेकलिस्ट में डाल देते हैं, ये कर देते हैं, वो कर देते हैं, ऐसा जो नहीं होना चाहिए, राइट? एंड सो दैट इनसाइट, सो देयर हैज टू बी क्वालिटेटिव एंड क्वांटिटेटिव. सो क्वांटिटेटिव तो आपको मिक्स पैनल या एम्पलीट्यूड से मिल जाता है प्रोडक्ट का. क्वालिटेटिव इज आफ्टर टॉकिंग टू कस्टमर्स. सो मतलब जैसे इन Clientjoy we had this that we'll talk to 2 paying customers and 1 churned customer every week. बोथ अनुपमा एंड आई, राइट? सो हर हफ्ते ये 3 कस्टमर से बात करनी है, जो छोड़ के गया वो क्यों छोड़ के गया, जो 2 अभी तक हमारे साथ है वो क्यों है। एंड उन लोगों को हम लोग मतलब ऐसा $50 का अमेजोन या स्टारबक्स डिपेंडिंग ऑन वेयर दे वर, उनको वो गिफ्ट कार्ड देते थे और वो सब भी करते थे टू कम ऑन द कॉल एंड टॉक अबाउट देयर क्लाइंट एक्सपीरियंस। एंड वी ऑल्सो मेड श्योर दैट वी आर नॉट टॉकिंग टू द डिसीजन मेकर्स ओनली, क्योंकि a software looks different for a decision maker and for a person who's actually contributing, like putting in the data into the software. So वो quantitative वाला, sorry, qualitative वाला जो input या feedback है वो भी extremely important है. When you don't have any data points, then it is just, I would argue that there is no framework to tell you what will work and what won't work. It is just your ability to make decisions when the data is not clear, right? So आप कितना अच्छे से assumptions बना सकते हो, आप कितना अच्छे से प्रोजेक्ट कर सकते हो, आपको कितना अंडरस्टैंडिंग है अपने कस्टमर का, अपने मार्केट का, दैट इज द ओनली फ्रेमवर्क दैट सॉर्ट ऑफ वर्क्स।
मेरे पड़ोस में हस्बैंड वाइफ की लड़ाई हो गई, उसको एग्जाम्पल पकड़ के मैंने कह दिया इंडिया में बहुत हस्बैंड वाइफ की बहुत लड़ाइयाँ होती हैं, ठीक है। दैट इज कॉल्ड कम डेटा पे आई एम कमिंग टू अ कंक्लूजन विच कैन बी एब्सोल्युटली कैटास्ट्रॉफिक ऑन अ मेजर डिसीजन मेकिंग पॉइंट, राइट। I want to dive deeper into the quantitative aspect of it. In right at the beginning of the call, you said metrics that matter, that you focus on the metrics that matter. You help companies come down to the conclusion based on the metrics that matter. What are these metrics? What few metrics can I as a founder, as a new business focus on?
सो एक तो चीज ये है कि लोग रिसर्च में लीडिंग क्वेश्चंस पूछते हैं, सो दे आस्क क्वेश्चंस सो दैट दे गेट द आंसर दैट अग्रीज विद देयर थॉट प्रोसेस। दूसरा, रिसर्च करते टाइम पे कंफर्मेशन बायस होते हैं, सो इवन व्हेन evidence exists of something that is opposite to their belief, they will choose to ignore it, or there will be a blind spot, and they'll only look at the evidence that agrees with their hypothesis. So that is the second thing. ये मतलब क्वांटिटेटिव क्वालिटेटिव डेटा पीपल सब चीज में ये दो चीजों का सबसे बड़ा प्रॉब्लम। एंड द थर्ड, मतलब जैसे जो आपने भी बोला, राइट, कि बहुत फाउंडर्स का लाइफ बर्बाद हुआ है बिकॉज ऑफ एनेक्डोटल एविडेंस, ऐसा कि मैंने देखा इसको 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 ऐसा, एंड दैट इज, अरे इसके साथ भी ऐसा हुआ, राइट? सो दैट दोज टू थ्री थिंग्स फ्रॉम द अप्रोच स्टैंड पॉइंट, फ्रॉम द मेट्रिक्स दैट मैटर स्टैंड पॉइंट। सो एक कंपनी का अगर जर्नी देखें, सो लेट्स अज्यूम फॉर सिंप्लिसिटी फॉर द फर्स्ट 3 years, every quarter or every 6 months, depending on the kind of company that you're building, different metrics will be important at different points of time, right? So so OKR करके एक framework है which we follow, which is where we identify one or maximum two metrics that the whole company is working on for this particular quarter. कि जैसे as an example, Clientjoy का जो एक OKR था, so there were two objectives in that. The first objective was increase incoming new revenue, right? So पहला ऑब्जेक्टिव वाज इंक्रीज न्यू रेवेन्यू, सेकंड वाज डबल आवर रिकरिंग रेवेन्यू, राइट? यही दो ऑब्जेक्टिव के ऊपर हम लोग 3 या 6 महीना काम कर रहे हैं। एवरी अदर इनिशिएटिव की रिजल्ट, वो चीजों को हम देख ही नहीं रहे, राइट? सो वी जस्ट से नो टू दैट। सो व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट न्यू विजिटर्स, न्यू साइनअप्स, न्यू डेमोज, दिस थ्री थिंग्स विल हेल्प अस मूव addition of new revenue into Clientjoy, right? And then we also talk about doubling our recurring revenue. तो doubling our recurring revenue के अंदर क्या क्या चीजें आएंगी? तो रिकरिंग रेवेन्यू को डबल करना है तो नया रेवेन्यू कंट्रीब्यूट करेगा, वो तो करेगा ही, और एग्जिस्टिंग कस्टमर्स के अंदर अपन अकाउंट एक्सपेंशन भी कर सकते हैं और चर्न को रिड्यूस भी कर सकते हैं, जिससे हमारा रिकरिंग रेवेन्यू डबल हो सकता है। सो देन वी आइडेंटिफाई कि यहां पर ये एक या दो मेट्रिक के ऊपर फोकस करते हैं कि एटलीस्ट जो 100 डेमो हम लोग अक्वायर कर रहे हैं और जो इन ऐप डेमोज बुक हो रहे हैं, वो टोटल में से हम 50 डेमोज बुक करें जिनका मंथली कॉन्ट्रैक्ट वैल्यू $540। अब इसमें है ना, मेट्रिक्स इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं है, the important bit are what are your objectives. So are you able to clearly define, I want the whole organization, whether it is product growth, customer success, to work on one or these two objectives, कि हम लोगों को नया रेवेन्यू ही एक्सेलरेट करना है, या हम लोगों को मतलब एक्टिव यूजर्स बढ़ाने हैं, या हम लोगों को इन ऐप परचेजेस बढ़ाने हैं, या हम लोगों को मार्केट प्लेस से एड ऑन्स बढ़ाने हैं, वट एवर द केस में भी, are you able to very clearly define that the whole organization is just working on that, and then everyone in the organization just talks about that, right? So weekly आप check in कर रहे हो, या which is all hands of sorts, and then you talk about the things that failed, you talk about the things that worked, and then you every week you double down on the things that are working, and every week that you remove the things that are not working, right? I think that is a great way to be able to identify the metrics. There are no right set of metrics for all startups to focus on. आपने I think I don't think we were recording at that point of time, but आपने ऐसा बोला था कि my product is baby and stuff like that, right? So ऐसा बहुत सारे founders सोचते हैं, which is something that is extremely terrible, right? So something that I मतलब strongly recommend to fall out of love with the product that you have, because you will have to cut its modules, you will have to मतलब वो चीजें आपको करनी पड़ेगी ऐसा, you will have to slash prices or you will have to increase prices. If you're emotionally attached with the product that you're running, then it's a difficult ask.
How do you manage to do that, yeah? Because founders have a very typical thing कि यार ये तो मेरा product है, मैं नहीं change कर रहा, या इसको जब तक perfect नहीं हो जाता, I'm not going to go to market. So again, I want to add another question to this, because we established this at the very beginning, where you said that I am more of the go-to-market guy. I am more of the guy who speaks to the clients. I'm not the product guy. Usually, founders, when they get together, both are product guys, both are people who are developing some aspect of the product. I'm talking here in the case of more than one founder. How do you draw that line? Where do you say कि अच्छा अब बस हो गया, let's get to the point where we're going to market? Because I think you define this as go to the clients first, go do the urgent, important, frequent, then start developing the product. A lot of people are not doing that. They're like product develop करते हैं, फिर client के पास जाएंगे, फिर देखेंगे, इसलिए इतने सारे great products हैं which do not sell. So how do you draw that line if you've already started product development, if you've not gone and done the exercise that you suggested that people do? Where do you draw the line, and where do you be like, okay, my product is now ready, that I should float it out to the market and then try to get some feedback and things like that?
नहीं, पर अगर मेरा प्रोडक्ट अच्छा है तो मेरे को तो बेचने की जरूरत ही नहीं है ना, प्रोडक्ट तो खुद को बेच लेता है। नहीं, ऐसे नहीं होता
यार। मेरे को ऐसा सरकाजम मारने में डर लगता है, कोई तो ऐसा सुन रहा है जिसको ये सरकाजम नहीं समझ में आया और उसको लगा कि यार ये तो इसका ओपिनियन है, ये सही बात बोल रहा है, यश गलत बोल रहा है। मतलब नहीं, वो मतलब आई अंडर आई यार। सो आई टेल यू वेरी सिंपल थिंग, इफ यू हैव स्टार्टेड राइटिंग, लाइक इफ यू रिटन वन लाइन ऑफ कोड विदाउट टॉकिंग टू द पर्सन हु इज गोइंग टू राइट द चेक, है ना, और लोगों से बात करना बेकार है। मतलब दोस्त, मम्मी पापा, वो सब बाद में करेंगे। मतलब जो आपको चेक लिखने वाला है, ऐसे 5 7 10 लोगों के साथ बात किया, 1 2 LOI लेके आए, स्प्रेडशीट के ऊपर आपको ऐसा लग रहा है कि इट इज गोइंग टू वर्क, ये 2 3 एक्सरसाइजेस करे बगैर इफ यू स्टार्टेड राइटिंग द कोड, देन इट इज अ गुड टाइम to put a pause on that and then do those exercises first. I strongly recommend that two product founders, see there are exceptions everywhere, right? So अगर आप टॉप 1% प्रोडक्ट फाउंडर हो ना, तो मतलब नन ऑफ व्हाट द मतलब टॉप 1% पे तो रिसेशन भी अप्लाई नहीं होता है। मतलब सो मतलब अभी मैं जो बोलूंगा उसके सामने कोई मेरे को क्या बोलेगा कि गूगल तो देखो ऐसा। अरे भाई, वो लोग कौन थे? और वो लोग टॉप 1% फाउंडर्स थे, और ऐसे गूगल जैसे बहुत सारे और रिसर्च आइडियाज थे जिसमें दोनों प्रोडक्ट फाउंडर्स वर बिल्डिंग समथिंग एंड देन दे डिडंट वर्क आउट एंड दे मूव्ड ऑन। सो टॉप 1% पे द मार्केट इज ऑलवेज ग्रेट। मतलब रिसेशन, रिक्रूट पर वो सब कुछ मैटर नहीं करता है। पर अपन ऐसा अज्यूम करते हैं कि अपन 99% में है, राइट, द अदर 99%। सो इसमें अगर दो प्रोडक्ट फाउंडर्स है ना, तो चैलेंज क्या आता है पता है कि they are, so I had Anupama who's my co-founder who used to look after the product, right? And so और मुझे तो मतलब प्रोडक्ट बनाना आता नहीं था, पर अपन बात कर लेते थे, तो आई टुक अप कि हाँ ये काम अपन कर लेंगे, सब लोगों से डिस्कशन करना, बात करना, ये सब अपन थोड़ा सा ट्राई कर सकते हैं। एंड अनुपमा वाज वेरी हैप्पी कि हाँ यार तू मेरे को बता क्या बनाना है, मैं मतलब उसको डिजाइन कर सकती हूँ, मैं बना सकती हूँ, ये सब चीजें मैं कर लूंगी ये सब। तो वो काफी अच्छा इक्वेशन सॉर्ट ऑफ सेट हो गया कि मैं लोगों को साइन अप पेज के ऊपर लाऊंगा, और साइन अप पेज के बाद का जो भी जर्नी है वो सब तुम देखोगे। तो उनका चर्न, उनका अकाउंट एक्सपेंशन, उनको एड ऑन्स बेचना, ये सब तुम्हारा काम। उसके पहले वाला जो भी चीज है, पोजिशनिंग, मार्केटिंग, अक्वायरिंग कस्टमर्स, गेटिंग ट्रैफिक, ये सब मेरा। व्हाट आई वुड रेकमेंड, और इसमें चैलेंज क्या था पता है कि टू प्रोडक्ट पीपल आर इन देयर कंफर्ट जोन, क्योंकि वो उनको अच्छा लगता है टू डिजाइन समथिंग दैट डिडंट एग्जिस्ट यस्टरडे। to build something that didn't exist yesterday. And it is something that is also important, right? So just good GTM also won't work. But the thing that we see that is a bigger challenge with startup founders is that they build products first, and then they hope that people will come, right? So which is a larger challenge. So before you start writing your first line of code, you can take inspiration. So a good assumption is that if you have money, you'll be able to build it, है ना? तो अगर मेरे को कोई आज 5 करोड़ रुपए देगा तो मैं फेसबुक बना दूंगा, मतलब मैं व्हाट्सएप बना दूंगा, मतलब कितने चैट एप्स तो मतलब मेरे को $50 में कोड कैनन पे भी मिलते हैं. सो टेक्नोलॉजी इज अ कॉमोडिटी, राइट? इफ यू हैव मनी इट विल बी बिल्ड. वो पैसा कहाँ से आएगा या रिसोर्सेस कहाँ से आएंगे is a question that you want to answer first.
You've had the experience of वो पैसा कहाँ से आएगा. In fact, you've had the experience of मेरे पास ही पैसा आ गया कि कंपनी तो मेरी खरीद ली. Let's talk about that experience because that is an unusual and a rare experience of an acquisition, right? What was it like selling something that you built for 4 years and watching it be renamed into something else and being run by somebody else? Does it hurt? How does the money flow? And in general, now that the experience is over and it has been months or years since that happened, how does it feel now?
So it is a little painful at first. I talk about how that happened, right? So August last year, we were out in the market to raise our next round of financing. We were trying to raise about 4.5 million, and we got commitment for about a third. So we got commitment of about 1.5. And so term sheet आ गया, and then they started doing due diligence. Pitch में जो भी बोला था वो सब सही है कि नहीं. So they started doing legal, financial and technical due diligence. Technical due diligence सब investor बोलते हैं, पर उनको करना नहीं आता है, unless you're raising like 50 million or whatever. तो अलग discussion है, but primarily is legal and financial. और अगर बिजनेस मॉडल में इंटरेस्ट है तो लीगल फाइनेंशियल में भी, इफ यू हैव मेड ऑनेस्ट मिस्टेक्स इन टर्म्स ऑफ कंप्लायंस, व्हिच देयर इज अ गुड प्रोबेबिलिटी दैट यू वुड हैव, क्योंकि बहुत सारे कंप्लायंसेस होते हैं तो वो गलतियां होती है. इफ दोज आर देयर, इट इज ओके. दे विल जस्ट टेल यू कि यार ये चीजें आप फिक्स कर दो, एंड यू कैन फिक्स दैट, एंड दैट्स फाइन. अगर आपने कुछ झूठ बोला है तो वो पकड़ा जाएगा, वो पकड़ा गया तो देन यू लॉस्ट दैट ट्रस्ट एंड इट जस्ट गोस डाउन साउथ, राइट? तो वो टिपिकली 1 से 1.5 महीना चलता है आपका ड्यू डिलिजेंस. In that process, I was trying to get the other 3 million, right? 4.5 में से 1.5 कमिट हो गया था, जो लीड कर रहे थे वो राउंड, और मैं बाकी के 3 ढूंढ रहा था, probably from 5-6 different entities, individuals, whatever the case may be. And it was proving to be extremely difficult, right? With a term sheet, with valuation terms, all of those things already set. पहला 15-17 दिन तो ऐसे निकला कि नहीं, मेरे पास तो टर्म्स है तो मैं इस पे तो नेगोशिएट करूंगा ही. तो उसमें कुछ हुआ नहीं. उसके बाद ऐसा हुआ कि यार चलो ठीक है, तुम बताओ, मतलब आई एम श्योर यू विल आस्क फॉर फेवरेबल टर्म्स व्हिच आर गोइंग टू बी फेवरेबल फॉर देम आल्सो, तो वी कैन वर्क समथिंग आउट. बट अल्टीमेटली 1-1.5 महीने के अंदर आई वाज नॉट एबल टू फिल द, मतलब पूरा राउंड सब्सक्राइब नहीं हो रहा. सो एट द एंड दे सेड कि चलो हमारा ड्यूटी हो गया, अभी कहाँ है हमारे को इन्वेस्टर्स, कौन है, मिलाओ ये वो. आई सेड कि वो तो नहीं मिले. आप इफ यू वांट टू इन्वेस्ट 1.5 तो वी कैन गो अहेड, अपन नंबर्स थोड़ा सा एडजस्ट कर सकते हैं. सेड कि नहीं यार, हम तो मतलब वी आर इन्वेस्टिंग आउट ऑफ आवर प्रॉफिट्स, राइट? वी आर नॉट VCs. So we are an organization for whom this is a strategic investment. So we don't want to be the only people in the round, and this they had also clarified before, right? It is not like they couldn't write 4.5 ka check. They had the money to write 4.5 ka check, but because we were raising 4.5, they committed 1. So this they had clarified earlier also. तो बोला कि चलो दैट डील डिडंट गो एनीवेयर, एंड देन आई स्टार्टेड टू कंटिन्यू, मतलब कि धंधा तो चल रहा था, इट वाज मंथ ऑन मंथ प्रॉफिटेबल. बट जो द अमाउंट ऑफ एक्सप्लोसिव ग्रोथ चाहिए था, दैट वाज अ लिटिल बिट ऑफ चैलेंज बिकॉज आई डिडंट हैव एडिशनल कैपिटल टू पंप and sort of bring more people in, right? So that was sort of becoming a challenge. And then sometime in end of November, there is an acquisition finance company based in Australia called Bopos, who reached out to Synup and said कि मतलब we can give you debt based on revenue of the company that you are acquiring, and we'll finance that acquisition, right? But we'll only finance acquisition. We will not give you money to make investment. तुम खरीद रहे हो तो खरीदो. The only condition is that all the revenue should be flowing through US. So which they agreed क्योंकि they are already a US based company. The acquisition के बाद they would move all the revenue to US. So then they made an offer कि यार देखो हमने पहले already एक valuation तो set कर रखा था when we were looking at investment. Would you be open to a an all out sort of buyout कि हम लोग खरीद ही लेते हैं ये पूरा प्रोडक्ट एंड थीसिस में तो फिट हो रहा है कि मतलब तुम्हारे कस्टमर्स और हमारे कस्टमर सेम है, हम दोनों को अलग अलग प्रोडक्ट बेच रहे हैं, तुम्हारा प्रोडक्ट हमारे कस्टमर को, हमारा प्रोडक्ट तुम्हारे कस्टमर्स को, और तुम्हारे प्रोडक्ट के अंदर और बहुत सारी चीजें बना भी सकते हैं, राइट? सो वी हैव द रिसोर्सेज टू डू दैट एंड द फ्री कैश फ्लो टू बी एबल टू डू दैट एज वेल. So would you be open to doing that? So that was an interesting evening, which is when me and Anupam are also husband and wife. So we became husband and wife after we were co-founders. So मतलब co-founder बनने के बाद प्यार हुआ था, प्यार की वजह से co-founder नहीं बने थे. So that was a that was an interesting evening. मतलब हम लोग 2-3 बजे तक we had we thought about it कि अच्छा ये हुआ तो क्या कर सकते हैं, नहीं हुआ तो क्या कर सकते हैं. Started reaching out to so we had 13 investors on our cap table. Reached out to a couple of them who were close in the sense कि जिनके साथ हर महीने एक दो बार बात होती. So reached out to those people and said कि यार ये नंबर मोटा मोटा बैठ रहा है, what are your thoughts? They said कि यार ball is in your court, तुमको जो ठीक लगे वो करो. So then the choice was कि do we think we have it in us to take Clientjoy to a 100 million run rate company? And this is where one of the things that most founders also don't think about comes into play, right? Which is a mistake that we also made with Client. So most founders that raise capital, any amount of capital, they don't think that how rare and difficult it is going to be for them to make money individually. सैलरी के अलावा उनकी इक्विटी का पैसा कब मिलेगा उनको, वो कोई फाउंडर सोचता ही नहीं है. मतलब तुम you take a group of 10 founders who raised 5 crores and you ask them कि what is your path to yourself making 50 crores in the next 5 years, 7 years? So they will say IPO. तो भाई वो सही बात है, पर how? What numbers will you need to get? What amount of additional capital? What amount of dilution? What will need to happen, right? So we don't think about this a lot. We had also not thought about this until I would say that we were lucky, right? In the sense that we got picked up. We were extremely lucky कि ये हो गया. And then once that happened, now I will make sure that with every organization, Momentum included, that I start all founders first figure out कि यार हम लोगों का टारगेट मतलब कितना अमाउंट है और कितने टाइम फ्रेम में अपने को करना है. एंड दैट इज हाउ लाइक अल्टीमेटली तो धंधा है ना. मतलब वी टॉक अबाउट founder talks about solving the problem for customer, generating value for investor, making sure that culture is good so employees are they are able to contribute meaningfully and stuff like that. खुद का घर, खुद का पैसा, कब पैसा, this like very few people talk about. And so then we arrived at a conclusion कि यार इसमें से अपन को मीनिंगफुल पैसा बनाने के लिए तो बहुत ज्यादा और मेहनत है, और मतलब we'll have to lot of things need to go right. And for all the things that you add, their probability gets multiplied, right? मतलब इसका 5% प्रोबेबिलिटी, इसका 2% प्रोबेबिलिटी, तो दोनों का मिला के मतलब 0.1% हो जाता है. So then we said कि हाँ तो ठीक है, let's have that conversation. Then Synup came back saying, I think that was also a very fair ask कि तब हम लोग इन्वेस्ट कर रहे थे और ग्रोथ प्लान था, अभी हम लोग अक्वायर कर रहे हैं, तो वी आर टेकिंग सिग्निफिकेंट अमाउंट ऑफ रिस्क, तो हमको 18% डिस्काउंट दे दो वैल्यूएशन पे, विच वी अग्रीड टू कि हाँ बराबर है. मतलब so then and then we went ahead. January, so we signed the requisite documents. ड्यूडी ऑलरेडी हो गया था. इस बार उन्होंने अच्छे से टेक्निकल ड्यूडी किया क्योंकि अभी तो असेट उनके पास आना था. We also did certain other agreements, which was where some key management personnel had to stay on for a bit with the company to ensure that there is smooth transition if and when they choose to part ways. January mid, the first wire came. सारे के सारे, so अपने साइड पे मतलब बहुत सारे compliances होते हैं that you have to do. You have to do a general extraordinary general meeting और वो सब चीजें हैं which I'll not bore you with, but वो सब करने के बाद on January 15th they purchased 10 shares, I think 10 shares from all the investors and founders. पहले 10 shares सबसे खरीदे पहले ट्रांजैक्शन में. फिर सब लोगों ने बेच दिए. उसके बाद दे स्टार्टेड वायरिंग 100% ऑफ द मनी टू इन्वेस्टर्स एंड फाउंडर्स का हमारा मतलब मेरा और अनुपमा का इट वाज अ 6 month ट्रांचेस. So which will end on 15th of June. मतलब 10 दिन में we will have our last tranche. And yeah, so that's sort of how it went down.
Now you know that so much money is going to hit your bank account, and a lot of it has already started hitting your bank account. Why go through the hassle of starting another business? Why not just invest it in an FD, live your life, chill out, eat chips on a lake or something?
So I am actually chilling. Matlab, right now. So this business momentum is it's a service business. Service business is not as difficult to run as a product business, and I've done this business before, and this is primarily यार मतलब क्या ही कर लोगे तुम चिल आउट करके. मतलब 15 दिन के लिए गया मैं बाली वाली गया. मतलब मैं और अनुपमा हम दोनों गए और एंड इट वाज फन. मतलब ऐसा मजा आया बहुत सारा. वी डिड थिंग्स दैट previously would have been a little too expensive for us to do. और वो खर्चा करने में भी थोड़ा सा मजा आता है कि ओए कर लो यार. मतलब कर सकते हैं ऐसा. So that's also a little fun. बट देन मतलब 8 घंटे क्या करोगे. मतलब दिमाग तो मतलब सो व्हाट विल यू डू राइट. सो कि मतलब कोई मीटिंग नहीं हो रही, कोई कस्टमर कॉल नहीं कर रहा. सो पहले 15-20 दिन 1 month was a little easy also क्योंकि कॉल्स हमारे हो रहे थे विद साइन अप टीम राइट. अनुपमा is still full time with sign up. So she now works on both Clientjoy as well as sign up products. एंड सो द रेस्ट ऑफ द टीम इज विद देम. तो पहले पहले कॉल्स होते थे कि यार ये तुमने कैसे किया था, वो तुम कैसे कर रहे थे, क्या हो रहा था क्या हो रहा था. तो वो तो फिर भी थोड़ा सा मीनिंगफुल लग रहा था कि हाँ हाँ ये हमने ऐसे किया, तुम्हें समझ में आया, हमने बता दिया. तो वो सब चीजें चल रही थी. बट देन इट स्टॉप्ड हैपनिंग. एंड एंड अभी तो मतलब मेरा बात भी नहीं होता है किसी के साथ. मतलब ऐसा तो वो थोड़ा इट्स अ लिटिल अननर्विंग. बट आई थिंक रनिंग अ बिजनेस इज मीनिंगफुल यार. मतलब 20-25 लोगों की वापस टीम हो गई. हम लोग टारगेट कर रहे हैं कि एक साल में वी बिकम 70-80 पीपल टीम एट मोमेंटम. तो लेट्स सी हाउ दैट गोज यार. फिंगर्स क्रॉस्ड.
यश, फंडिंग की बात करते, लेट्स टेक इट अ लिटिल फॉरवर्ड. यू सेड यू रेज्ड सीड, देन एंजल, देन वीसी, एंड देन यू गॉट अक्वायर्ड. तो इट इज लाइक बहुत सारे स्टार्टअप्स ऐसे हैं या बहुत सारे फाउंडर्स ऐसे हैं जो ये सोचेंगे कि इससे ज़्यादा आइडियल रूट नहीं हो सकता. फंडिंग 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 एक्विजिशन.
So I'll share this with you, right? So our rounds were fairly small, right? So these were not extremely big rounds. Meaningful amount of money from an individual standpoint for sure. But from the check sizes that you see typically, they were a little different. And थोड़े COVID के time पे भी हुए थे and stuff like that. So I talk a little about the approach का difference, right? So seed से पहले हमको 22 लाख रुपए का government grant भी मिला. तो मतलब 11 लाख रुपए फॉर प्रोडक्ट डेवलपमेंट, 11 लाख रुपए फॉर मार्केटिंग. एंड देन क्योंकि अनुपमा वाज अ फीमेल फाउंडर तो 15,000 रुपीज पर मंथ का बद था राइट. सो तो वो सब मतलब स्टार्टअप इंडिया वाले स्कीम में से मिला था which is not a lot of money, but imagine like if you're just starting out, so it's a lot. I mean at an early stage it's extremely meaningful कि हाँ मतलब इतना तो मैं कर सकता हूँ ऐसा राइट. So grant was it took us about 4 odd months from zero to grant money in the bank account. And grant is grant, right? So no equity, no debt. It is government giving you money. In लो और तुम करो. अच्छा, you have to submit proofs and stuff like that, but that's okay. मतलब, so then our seed was by IIMA Ventures, which is an incubation center at IIM Ahmedabad. Then angel was from a group of angel rounds, and then VC was GVFL करके एक micro VC है from Ahmedabad. So ये 3 rounds थे. First, I think from the company approach standpoint, I'd say that we went from our market का idea standpoint, we went more and more niche as we raised more and more funds, because we realized that जितना बड़ा market को मतलब if you are trying to be everything for everyone, you are just like nothing for no one, right? So जितना बड़ा मार्केट को हम लोग टारगेट कर रहे हैं उतना ही ज्यादा पैसा लग रहा है. सो टू ऑप्टिमाइज द स्पेंड, we'll have to niche down. From product standpoint, I would say that we made significantly more investments in. So our belief from a product standpoint changed from building more features to making the journeys more smoother and finer. So one of the things that we learned in the process that we didn't know how to do well before was maintaining investor relations, मेकिंग श्योर कि मतलब वहां से जो क्वेश्चंस आ रहे हैं ना वो फैक्चुअल क्वेश्चंस नहीं आ रहे, राइट? सो वहां से जो क्वेश्चन आ रहे हैं वो अप्रोच पे क्वेश्चन हो सकता है, या मतलब व्हाट डू यू थिंक अबाउट दिस दैट इज हैपनिंग इन द मार्केट, ऐसा कुछ हो सकता है विच इज सॉर्ट ऑफ सब्जेक्टिव. बट ये क्वेश्चन नहीं होना चाहिए कि रेवेन्यू कितना था, मतलब मतलब क्या हुआ लास्ट मंथ, राइट? ये सब नहीं होना चाहिए. तो वी हैड अ टेम्पलेट, राइट? सो एवरी मंथ आई वुड राइट एन MIS which was very clear. So we had मतलब ये महीने वेबसाइट विजिटर कितने हुए, साइन अप कितने हुए, साइन अप से पेड कितने हुए, सब्सक्रिप्शंस कितने हुए, उसके बाद मतलब कितना स्पेंड हुआ, कौन से चैनल पे स्पेंड हुआ, तो उसके हिसाब से CAC कितना आया, एवरेज कॉन्ट्रैक्ट वैल्यू कितना आया, कितना कस्टमर आया, वो कस्टमर में से प्रीवियस में से कितने एक्सपेंशन थे, कितने नए कस्टमर्स आए, स्टफ लाइक दैट, राइट? सो दे गेट अ फुल व्यू ऑफ, और प्रोडक्ट इंजीनियरिंग का कॉस्ट कितना हुआ, AWS का कॉस्ट कितना हुआ, मार्जिन क्या है, स्टफ लाइक दैट. So it's sort of a marketing plus financial dashboard that they would be able to see and get a view on. Manual entry, कोई automation नहीं, कुछ नहीं, मतलब ऐसा डाल के, so they'll be able to know what is going on from that company. And then along with that, a short note which was on product growth, team and miscellaneous, कि प्रोडक्ट में हमने ये महीने में ये 4 चीजें बनाई, यहाँ पर अपडेट्स आप चेक कर लो, जो विच आर द सेम फॉर द कस्टमर्स ऑल्सो, कि updates.clientjoy.io पे आप जाके चेक कर लो ऐसा. फिर ग्रोथ के अंदर हमने ये 2 नए एक्सपेरिमेंट्स किए, ये 2 फेल हो गए या एक अच्छा चल रहा है, व्हाटएवर. टीम के अंदर ये मेजर चेंजेस हुए, इतने लोग छोड़ के गए, इतने लोग ज्वाइन किए. मिसलेनियस इज योर आस्क कि मुझे ये करके दो, या फिर मेरी ये हेल्प कर दो, या मुझे ये बता दो, या व्हाटएवर द केस में, राइट? या फिर ये अवार्ड मिल गया, या समथिंग दैट इज नॉट रिकरिंग. And then you write that note, which is 2-3 bullet points under each header, along with the MIS attached, and you send it out. So now they don't have any factual question to ask. They can ask you कि ये तुमने क्या बोगस एक्सपेरिमेंट चलाया, which is fair, and you can have that debate. But तुमने क्या किया, ये क्वेश्चन नहीं हो सकता, right? So that was a journey that started happening after our angel round, because angel में we had 7 people join in on our cap table. So which is something that we learned also from an. So once you raise capital, one of the uh, one of the major issues that happens is that people think that you are rich now, which is not true. So एक्विजिशन के बाद थोड़ा सा पैसा आता है, which is fair, पर मतलब इक्विटी राउंड रेज करने के बाद पैसा नहीं आता है, मतलब वो तो कंपनी में पैसा आ रहा है और तुम तो अभी भी सैलरी पे ही हो, मतलब तुम्हारा सैलरी थोड़ा सा बेटर हुआ है, पर you are not rich, right? So but the approach of the team changes, the way that they ask for a hike changes, the customers start to ask for more discounts, more and more agencies start to pitch to you, and stuff like that happens, right? And so पहले थोड़ा सा सेल्फ इंपॉर्टेंट लगता है. सो फर्स्ट एंड सेकंड PR दैट वी डिड आफ्टर रेजिंग फंड्स, उसमें मतलब ऐसा खुशी हो गया, राइट? कि यार वो मजा आ गया, ये तो अपन ने मतलब ऐसा न्यूज़पेपर में आ गया, ऐसा थोड़ा सा छोटा सा, तो पेरेंट्स वो ऐसा एक दूसरे को क्लिप करके व्हाट्सएप भेज रहे हैं, फैमिली ग्रुप्स में लोग फोन करके कंग्रेचुलेट कर रहे हैं, स्टफ लाइक दैट, कि हमारा बच्चा IIM में है, ऐसा. which is wrong. Which is absolutely wrong, right? So we were just incubated in their incubation center, which is significantly easier to get into than to get into IIM. But then after the second PR, we started realizing कि ये vanity है, right? So इसका काम हम सिर्फ ट्रस्ट बिल्डिंग है, इससे हमारे अंदर वो ईगो नहीं आना चाहिए, या हमारे अंदर ईगो इज अ रॉन्ग वर्ड, बट हमारे अंदर खुशी भी इस चीज की नहीं होनी चाहिए कि हमारा PR हो गया या फंडिंग हो गया, राइट? फंडिंग हुआ है, अच्छी बात है. नाउ वील हैव टू रन मोर एक्सपेरिमेंट्स, and it's just that you moved from a fan to a cooler or the cooler to an AC, but काम तो करना ही है.
नहीं, इसी पॉइंट पे a lot of people who we speak to, especially people who are in the VC space, who are working with venture capitalists and all, they're like, हम अगर कभी startups करेंगे ना, तो we are never going to be raising funding, because this whole funding thing is the most annoying thing you can do as a founder. How has that experience been?
My experience has been a little contrary, to be honest. So yeah, I would argue that raising capital is meaningful, not just from raising, like having more money standpoint or having more resources standpoint. Even if I have money, if so, momentum services company में fund raise करने का कोई point नहीं है, कोई invest भी नहीं करेगा. But if I start a product company again, even if I have capital, I'll invest some amount of capital. I'll still raise funds. I think because of a couple of things. So one is that there are more founders who have the experience of pitching to investors than founders who have raised capital from investors, right? So their relationship with investors is always that of you are on that side of table, I am on this side of the table, and I am pitching to you, and you are not agreeing to what I am trying to say. However, once you raise capital, the investor is on the same side of your table, right? So now आप दोनों का कंपनी है, मतलब तुम्हारा टाइम लगा है, उसका पैसा लगा है, and capital and labor are one and the same, right? So that's the first thing that I would recommend. I would say the second thing is more often than not, if the investor is good investor, then they also have some amount of then there are certain doors that they can open for you, which you may not be able to open for yourself at the scale at which you are. And so that is also meaningful, and that is also interesting. I would also say that as and when you start to scale, a board that questions the decisions of the founder is also extremely important. And क्योंकि फाउंडर किसी को रिपोर्ट नहीं करता ना, तो मतलब that is extremely difficult for the founder to know whether they are doing a good job or not, right? And so हमारे केस में one of the things that we started at Momentum is this idea of a peer board, which is where couple of other founders who are running similar business to ours, we become each other's board, right? So we ask each other's difficult questions, we make them accountable. Founders lose accountability extremely quickly. This is something that I've realized with myself and with some of the other founders who I know as well. कि उनको कोई सवाल नहीं पूछ रहा है तो मतलब हाँ, वो यही बोल के काम चल रहा है कि हम तो पैशनेट है. And that's not like, passion does not introduce competence. So yeah, so that's why I would say that I'd still raise capital. So my experience is a little different than.
Lovely, Yash. So that brings us to the end of the podcast. So we have a tradition on the podcast where the last founder has left you a question. We would like you to answer that question and leave a question for the next founder. So the question for you is, what is the importance of being realistic in your process of evolution of your company?
Yeah, first is an approach that I try to build. Ki whatever I think my company is has no reason to exist. मतलब मेरा perspective has to be put aside. What my company is the common thread of perspectives that I gather from my prospects or from my customers. So that is one. Second is consistently try to evaluate your absence, like what amount of pain your company's absence would cause to your customers. Is it something that they'll forget? Is it something that will stop their work, their process, or whatever the case may be, and sort of give that much amount of importance to the work that you are doing in the organization. The third, थोड़ा subjective answer है ये, पर मतलब it's always consistently trying to visit the other person's center of universe, right? कि वो क्या सोच रहा है, वो क्या समझ रहा है, उसके क्या challenges हैं, उसके goals क्या हैं, उसके fears क्या हैं, and stuff like that. तो खुद का perspective matter ही नहीं करता है, क्योंकि all of us, like it's a buyer's market, and so their thought process, their thinking, that is what matters. I'm not one of those people who's like, I will change the world or educate a market. If I were forced to start a business that requires education of the market, I'll just not do business. I don't think मतलब वो ग्रेन ही नहीं है ऐसा, मतलब तुम कौन होते हो मार्केट को एजुकेट कर, मतलब मार्केट है वो, उसको जो चाहिए वो तुम दो, और एंड देन डू इट एट अ मार्जिन, एंड दैट्स प्रीटी मच इट, राइट? So these couple of things, I think, as a framework, not thinking that you are building something of value, just figuring out what is the common thing amongst the perception that your prospects and customers have, trying to visit their center of the universe. These couple of things I try to be, try to make sure that I'm a little realistic in what I think we are building. Are we making a dent in the universe? No. Yeah, so stuff like that.
Can we have your question, Yash, for the next founder?
Here's something that I've wondered.